"Ma'am, I don't want money. I just want to fix your car for a hot meal. 1 plate. For her." The garage stilled. Wrenches dropped. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. All eyes turned toward the man at the threshold, graying gaunt, grease-stained shirt clinging to his frame. One hand held the calloused fingers of a quiet little girl in an oversized hoodie. The other pointed calmly at the silver BMW Z8 on the lift. Brooke Hamilton blinked twice. She had come here expecting a 10-minute diagnostic and a latte to go. Not. Whatever this was. The foreman chuckled loud and sharp. "You lost, old man." "I'm not Jack Turner," replied voice, quiet, eyes steady. "But your diagnosis is." The tension in the air thickened. The team had been scratching their heads for 2 hours running scan tools and swapping relays. The dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree every time they tried to start the car. Brooke folded her arms sharply, tailored blazer catching the late sun through the open bay door. "You think you know what's wrong." Jack didn't flinch. "I know it by sound." The little girl beside him, barefoot in beat-up sneakers, hair tucked behind her ears, held his gaze like he was the last steady thing in a storm. Brooke almost sighed. This day had already been a disaster. The investor lunch canceled her assistant late, and now her vintage collector's car, her one splurge, refusing to start. And yet, something about the man stopped her. He wasn't posturing. He didn't beg. He stood like someone who used to command space now, just trying not to take up any. And the little girl. Ellie. He'd said. Something in the girl's eyes was too quiet for a child that young, too observant. Brooke's inner voice, the one trained in boardrooms and billion-dollar bets, whispered, "This is a liability." But another voice, one deeper, older, murmured, "Let's see what happens." She sighed. 5 minutes. Impress me." Jack gave a single nod. "That's all I need." He handed Ellie his backpack, then walked toward the BMW with the reverence of a man approaching a chapel. No tools, no scanners, just instinct. He circled the car once slowly, like listening with his feet. Then he opened the driver's door and slid in the leather, groaning beneath him. He closed his eyes. Placed 2 fingers gently on the dash just above the ignition. The garage held its breath. He leaned in, whispered barely audible, "Talk to me." A beat, then another. Jack's eyes fluttered open. Faulty throttle position sensor. Faking a misfire cascade. Your ECU thinks it's protecting the engine. It's not. He stepped out, reached for a socket wrench from the startled mechanic beside him, and ducked under the hood with practiced grace. 3 minutes, 2 screws, 1 wire harness delicately cleaned and reconnected. "Try it now," he said. The foreman turned the key. The BMW roared to life, smooth clean like it had been born to run. A stunned silence followed. Then someone shouted, "Yo, I got that," on video. Phones rose. A low whistle rippled through the team. Brooke felt her mouth open, then close again. Her heart did something it hadn't done in weeks. It skipped. She stepped closer. "What's your name?" "Jack Turner," he said. "And hers?" "Ellie," he said softer now. "My daughter." Brooke glanced at the girl. Ellie offered a shy half-smile, then tucked herself behind her father's leg. "You worked in auto repair?" Brooke asked, tone still clipped, but now, less armor, more curiosity. "No," Jack said simply. "I used to race." Before she could ask more, the foreman muttered, "Where'd you learn throttle harmonics like that?" Jack looked down, shrugging. "You spend enough nights alone with broken things, you start to hear what they're really saying." The team chuckled nervously. Brooke didn't. She studied his face again, the creases at his eyes, the soot-streaked jawline, the way he stood like someone used to being blamed for things he couldn't fix. But, most of all, she studied Ellie. The girl was now holding a tiny, crumpled napkin. On it, a sketch rough, childish, but clear, a man standing beside a car, a tiny crown above his head. He didn't look like a beggar in that drawing. He looked like a king. Brooke folded her arms again. Come back tomorrow. I'll pay you in meals if you help clean up my fleet. Jack hesitated. 1 day only. We'll see, she said, then added against every impulse in her carefully curated personality, I could use someone who listens. Jack met her eyes. For a moment, there was something ancient and almost broken in them, but also a flicker of something else. Hope. He nodded once, then turned back to Ellie. She reached for his hand. He squeezed it gently like she was his anchor in the storm. As they walked away, Brooke found herself still watching them long after they'd gone. She didn't know who he really was, didn't know what he'd lost, didn't know that the internet would soon call him the Engine Whisperer. All she knew was this: the car worked. The man didn't lie, and something about that father and daughter made her want to believe in second chances again. This guy fixed a CEO's BMW in 5 minutes. No tools, just listen to it. Somebody find this man. The video had only been online for 8 hours, but it was already everywhere. Hashtags were piling up. BMW Whisperer, Gajiu Garage Angel, you homeless. Hero, and the name on everyone's lips wasn't a name at all. It was a whisper. JT didn't own a phone. He didn't know he'd gone viral. He just knew Ellie had drawn something new this morning. She had sat on the broken pew of the chapel they'd been sleeping in, an old Methodist church with stained glass sunbeams and ivy swallowing the stone. Her pencil moved in slow, careful strokes. Is that me again? JT asked, sipping black coffee from a chipped thermos. Ellie nodded without looking up. He smiled. You always draw me better than I am. She tilted her head, then held up the paper. This time it was him in coveralls, oil on his hands, sweat on his brow, but on his head sat a crooked crown made of spark plugs. He laughed softly. A king of broken things, huh? Ellie just grinned proud, then curled up beside him like she used to when nights were colder than silence. Later that day, just past noon, the wind picked up on the side of Route 17. A beat-up Subaru wagon rattled to a stop on the shoulder, steam rising from the hood like an angry spirit. Inside, Ben Reyes, a public defender in his 30s, still in his courtroom shirt and loosened tie, fumbled with his hazard lights. His son, Lucas, whimpered in the back seat. Feverish, cheeks flushed, eyes glassy. "Hang on, buddy," Ben said, heart-pounding. "We'll figure it out." He popped the hood. Smoke. Burnt coolant. A shredded serpentine belt. He cursed under his breath. Just then, a man with salt and pepper stubble and oil-stained boots stepped out of the tree line, a child's hand in his. "You need help?" the man asked. Ben turned, startled. "Yeah, do you know cars?" Jack Turner simply looked at the engine. His eyes narrowed, not in frustration but in familiarity. "Overheated. Your tensioner pulley gave out through the belt," he said, wiping his hands on a rag pulled from his back pocket. "Got a few tools back in the chapel." Ben blinked. "The—" Chapel Jack gestured toward the treetops. "Old place. We stay there." "You got a bottle of water in the glove box," Ben said. Jack handed the bottle to Ellie, who ran it under the car gently to cool the engine. "She's got the lightest hands," Jack explained. "Won't crack a hot block." Ben stared. Who are you?" Jack didn't answer right away. He just reached into the engine and began to work using a makeshift socket to release the tensioner, then looping an old belt from his backpack. "Patch job," Jack muttered. "Won't last a week, but it'll get your boy to the clinic." 5 minutes later, the car rumbled to life. Lucas stirred in the back seat. "Daddy," he mumbled. Ben's knees buckled in relief. "You just—" He turned to Jack, overwhelmed. "Thank you." Jack shrugged, brushing his hands off. "Just a machine." "No, that was something else," Ben said, voice thick. "Let me buy you lunch. Coffee. Something." Jack shook his head. "Just glad the kid's okay." But Ben wasn't letting it go. "You used to be a mechanic." "No," Jack said, wiping sweat from his brow. "Used to be a racer." Then he nodded toward the chapel and took Ellie's hand again. As they walked away, Ellie turned and gave Lucas a little wave. Lucas waved